Hi, I'm Mike Bellevue. I'm the black powder editor for Guns of the Old West magazine. And today we're going to be taking a look at the gun that started it all, Colt Paterson revolver. This is a replica made by Pieta in Italy, imported by Dixie Gun Works in Union City, Tennessee. The Patterson, New Jersey plant was Samuel Colt's first entrance into the gun-making world. And these revolvers, the Patterson Colts, these were the first practical revolving pistols. And there had been other designs before. I mean, you can go back to the 18 teens with the Collier flintlock pistol even. But this was the first really practical one. Most of the revolvers at this time, which was in the 1830s, were the pepper box variety, where instead of having a cylinder of chambers like the Colt does, the cylinder was the full length of the barrel. And the whole thing rotated, and they were usually double action guns, usually unrifled, not usually accurate, because the center mounted hammer and the revolving barrels made it almost impossible to aim, so they were just belly guns. But these guns kind of changed that, but they really were not popular. Colt ended up going out of business because he designed this gun during a period of pretty peaceful times in the United States, and there was not as much call for innovative handgun designs during that period. So, and they were expensive. I mean, these things were very complex to manufacture. So, Colt went out of business until the Mexican-American War, when he came back with the Walker, and that'll be the subject for another day. But this was the number 5 Patterson. Now, these guns were made in calibers ranging from 28 up to 36. This is a 36, which was the biggest gun they made. And this gun led to the Dragoon being made later, because this gun was used by the Texas Rangers in a very famous fight. Captain Jack Hayes fought the Comanches, and up till that time, everybody had been using single-shot rifles and pistols. But he had a troop of Rangers, each armed with 2 of these. And when the Comanches attacked, they all fired. The Comanches, naturally assuming they now had empty rifles, charged them. And what they found out is they'd fired their rifles, and each man still had 10 rounds of pistol ammunition, and they whipped the Comanches good. And from that point on, the Texas Rangers were revolver men. Now, this gun has a few features that are quite different than you might be used to if you're used to today's, or if you're used to the next generation of cap and ball revolvers, let's say, from the Walker on. This gun has a folding trigger. When you cock it, the trigger pops out. And it's got a pretty decent trigger pull, but I'll tell you what, this actually makes it very awkward to cock, because your middle finger wants to rest up against the back of that trigger guard for leverage on cocking. And therefore, these things are kind of awkward. Also, though some of these guns were made with loading levers, most of them were not, and this replica from Pieta does not have a loading lever, which means you have to disassemble the gun to load it. And I'm going to do that now. We'll load it up, and I'll show you a few of the other features of the gun. All right, the way you disassemble a Patterson is basically unscrew the screw that holds a wedge in, and then you've got to tap the wedge out. And when you've done that, you can pull it out, and now you can take the barrel off of the cylinder. I'm going to put it on half cock, and I'm going to pull the cylinder off. Now, there's a few interesting things that I can show you right off the bat here. Now, you'll see, unlike on later Colt percussion guns, there are no grease grooves here. Which means this is more susceptible to fouling. And where you would be used to seeing a hand right here that lifts a ratchet on the back of the cylinder to rotate it every time you cock it, what you're going to see here, if we can get a good shot of this, because it is a little bit difficult to see, right here there's a key, and that key fits into that slot in the back of the cylinder. So there are no ratchets back here. So when you put this together, you'll line up that key in that slot, and that is what indexes the revolver around. That's what turns the chambers of the cylinder. So that's different right there. Also, you can see the water table is a separate piece. So the frame is not all one piece. The water table goes in separately, and it's held by 2 screws underneath. All in all, the lock work, though it has similarities, is different from the lock work that we would see on later Colt cap and balls. Being a 36 caliber revolver, the Patterson Colt here loads pretty much with the same components as a 1851 Navy. So if you have an 1851 Navy, you can use the same components on this. We'll use 375 inch diameter round balls. We'll use a Navy flask and 3F powder, and we'll use Remington number 10 caps. And now we'll show you the procedure. Colt Patersons are 5-shot revolvers, and they have no safety pins or slots or anything on them. So really, back in the day, they were loaded with 5, and you put the hammer down on a cap chamber. In subsequent models, that was changed. But for safety's sake, we're going to load 4. And I'm going to use 3F powder, and I'm going to use the same powder charge I would use in a Colt Navy. It's a 36 caliber, just like the later Navies. It's a little bit smaller cylinder, but this little 20 grain charge will do just fine. So I'm just going to show you what we do. I'm going to get a charge of powder in here, pour it in. Now, because we don't have a loading lever, I'm going to have to do something different. Now, these guns came with the tool, which I'll show you right here. It's called a Patterson Tool. And this would go in the arbor, and then this would lever down and push the ball in. And I'm here to tell you, this thing is about useless for me, except it has a pretty decent nipple wrench on the end of it. But other than that, I've never really been able to successfully load one of these things with this tool. So what I use is a brass short starter that you'd use for a muzzle-loading rifle, and this works pretty well. So I'll show you this procedure. We've got our powder charge in this chamber right here. So we'll put a ball on there. I'm going to get it started. That's a nice tight fit, just what we want. And there you go. So that's the way I load these. I'm going to load 4, and then we can cap it and shoot it. All right, I've loaded 4 of the chambers, as you can see. And I've put powder ball, and I cover the ends with black powder lube, which is mutton tallow and beeswax. And that'll lubricate the ball on the way down the barrel. Now, a lot of people use a felt wad soaked in lube behind the ball instead of putting grease over the ball, and I do that sometimes myself, but this time I'm doing it this way. Now we've got to cap them, and I'm going to cap it off the gun. And I'm using a Ted Cash capper. We'll widen that out just a little bit. And this holds about 100 caps. It's good for getting you through a whole match. And this gun can't accommodate it. There's enough room in here to get them in. So that's how it works. And I'll cap them all up, and then we'll put the gun back together. As I said, the lack of a trigger guard makes the Patterson awkward to cock, one-handed particularly. It's easier to cock the Patterson with the thumb of your offhand. Recoil with this gun is very negligible, so it's very pleasant to shoot. We'll finish off with the Comanche's eye view of the Patterson revolver. The last one got away from me, so I guess I'd have lost my hair.